Yes. Got it. Okay. Awesome. Okay, we did it. So I am here live with Micah Pope of Miss Micah's Kitchen. I
Yeah.
am so excited. Yay. I'm so excited for this topic tonight. Um, Micah's topic tonight inside the Mama Circle is easy weeknight meals. That sounds like a whole lot of weight off my shoulders when I hear those. And I asked Micah to come in, and she's graciously coming in and donating her time to share her expertise with us and her experience and her knowledge on how we can make mealtime like simpler. So what she's sharing with us tonight is weeknight meals shouldn't be stressful, expensive, or junk food. Follow along as Micah shares recipes, tips, and tricks for easy, delicious, and nutritious meals. So I kind of feel like what's for dinner is like the biggest question that a lot of us moms stress out over. So before we get started with Micah, I just want to share her bio so y'all get to know who she is. So Micah Pope says, I am Micah Pope, head chef and owner of Miss Micah's Kitchen. Micah is a private chef and specializes in helping busy families tackle their food pain points. Yes. Be it picky eaters, allergies, or simply a busy life, Micah can help. She meal preps for her clients in their homes and also teaches cooking classes. In addition to running Miss Micah's Kitchen, Micah works part-time with Tulsa Youth Works, where she helps our underserved students of North Tulsa learn how to eat healthier, try new foods, and make healthy pizza, become work ready, and also learn how to become an entrepreneur. That is so cool. So Micah, we're gonna get started. I would love to know, how did you get started as a chef? How did this journey begin for you?
It was all accidental, was never anything I actually had planned to do. Growing up, all I wanted to be was a veterinarian or zoologist. And that was literally my life until I was about 16, 17. My first two jobs were in the animal industry. And one day I just realized I love animals, but I don't want to work with them. And that was around 16, 17. And everybody said, oh my gosh, this is all you've ever wanted to do. What are you going to do now? I said, I have no idea. So I'm just going to go out there and explore. And I started just job hopping and trying all different industries. Pretty much gave my mom a heart attack over that one. She was like, you'll never do anything well because you have too many jobs in your history. I'm like, now it has served me actually really well because I got a lot of experience from it. But in that, my first job outside of the food industry, or I'm sorry, out of the animal industry, was actually Chick-fil-A. Um, I was not suited very well for that company. But it gave me my first experience with food and I really enjoyed it. I jumped around a little bit after that, went to retail management, did a lot of retail management, banking, all sorts of different things, but came back to food kind of as a necessity. I was working at a bank and I needed more hours and more funds as a single mom raising Miles, who at the time was about 3, 4. Now he's 14, so that was over 10 years ago. So I just took on a part-time job with Mazio's as a delivery driver. And within 2 months, I was promoted to a manager. And that's how I really got into the food industry and started really enjoying the time there. And we were the second busiest catering location in Oklahoma. So I started really learning about catering and food and kind of how to cook and all that. But it started even before then, as far as learning how to cook. My mom was more of a baker. She taught me how to bake. My dad could barely boil water. I was on my own on how to learn. And around probably 15, 16 is when I started getting interested in learning how to cook. And I'm 100% self-taught. It's all trial and error. I tell people I have literally taken food out of the oven on fire. I have taken food out of the oven that it's completely black, and I'm like, I don't remember what it was when I put it in here. And I go, okay, what did I do wrong? Let's start over. And it just grew from there. And with the jobs that I've had through the food industry, that has helped me build my skills and my expertise and just continue to always learning. I really got interested in the dietary needs and allergens. So a lot of my clients are people that just need help learning how to eat again because they've been diagnosed with alpha gal or mast cell or just all sorts of different things that are out there these days. And that's just kind of where it all started.
Awesome. So when you work with clients to help guide them, with food, what like I'm just trying to think the best question to ask here. What's the biggest challenge that you think mamas have with regards to preparing nutritious meals every night for dinner for their families?
What I've run into, especially with my clients, is so many of them have various allergies within the home, and they're having to cook 2 and 3 different types of meals. So everybody is taken care of, and they're getting what they need, and not getting, no cross contaminations happening, and they're just stressed because what normal food prep is for us is still stressful and overwhelming. And then you add multiple allergies or multiple dietary needs with a busy family and multiple kids. It can be really overwhelming, obviously. So that's kind of the biggest thing that I hear is picky eaters, or because of the allergy needs, there's multiple meals having to be made each night, and it's very stressful and overwhelming.
Yeah, we have that here too, and it's not really so much for allergies, but it's preferences. And,
Mhm,
we have a very, one person who's kind of a picky eater.
mhm,
And I don't know. I struggle with that term too, because
mhm,
as a child, I didn't want to eat food that I didn't like. And I remember, oh my gosh, like you have to stay at the table until your plate's empty. That never
mhm.
happened. We didn't have a dog, so I would like chew up broccoli and put it in my glass of milk because you
Yeah.
couldn't see it through there. I mean, so how do you help? How would you suggest like families can transition? Like, do you suggest that we would go for people with allergens, go completely allergen free for the whole family and just learn a whole new way of cooking? Or what are your suggestions in there?
For some families, that is the easiest, is just they learn whatever the allergy is, they just accommodate for the whole family because it's just easiest versus trying to prevent the cross contamination, trying to make multiple different types of meals. For some, it's simple. If it's gluten free and you're making a pasta dish, to just separate the pasta and make, you can just separate things from separate meals and go ahead and make 2 separate dishes with just one simple swap. And so it's not that overwhelming. It's not that hard. So it kind of depends on what the family is dealing with and how much time and just capacity. Sometimes, and when I say capacity, that's mental and emotional. Sometimes I just don't have the capacity to deal with my own cooking, my own stuff at the house, my own 14-year-old who decides he doesn't like my cooking that night. So sometimes I do find myself going through a drive-through or opening a can of something or heating the freezer meal up that may not be the healthiest option, but that's where my capacity is that night, and that's okay because we have to make sure that we're pouring into ourselves as well. And if
Yes.
it's we're going through a drive-through tonight because mentally and emotionally I can't handle cooking, then that happens sometimes.
Yeah, and I feel like even, if I don't have the bandwidth to prepare a meal,
Mhm.
you don't want to eat that food. Like
Mhm.
the energy of like the emotions of what I'm feeling will go into the food. And then, sometimes we just hit the drive-through or just call in a pizza
Mhm.
as a stopgap. But I think if we have those foundations throughout the week, uh,
Mhm.
then that 80/20, it's
Yep,
not a problem.
absolutely.
So how would you suggest, what would be an easy way? Do you plan monthly? Do you plan weekly? How would you suggest people plan what's for dinner for the next week coming up? Because it seems like we have the internet, we have infinite recipe bloggers and websites.
Mhm.
And when I sit down I do grocery planning or meal planning, grocery shopping, and all that stuff on a Sunday. I go to sit down and I gotta clear my mind
Mhm.
because sometimes I just don't have the creative bandwidth to figure out what am I going to eat, and then I have to match it with my schedule, and am I going to be home to cook this and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So where would you suggest people start with that?
I think it kind of depends on one, your schedule and also your personality. For me, if I sat down and tried to schedule for a month, I can promise you when I get to week 2 and it says, oh, it's meatloaf night, I don't want meatloaf tonight. So I'm gonna, wind up making some other change. So for me personally, I like meal prepping max a week at a time just because I know I'm I call myself a moody eater. It depends on what mood I'm in and what kind of food I want at that point. So one thing that I always do to help just build the shopping list, but also save money is I start with my pantry and I look at what I have in my pantry. What do I have right now that I can make meals out of? What 1 or 2 ingredients can I add? And then boom, I have a full meal here. So I've just saved money because I only have to buy a couple of items. I already have it on hand, so I don't have to think about all the stuff that has to go with it. And then that's kind of how I start building my menu and my schedule. So I can use things up and I'm not throwing things away. And it's, of course, in the restaurant industry, we call it FIFO, first in, first out. I'm getting things used as much as possible. If something's coming to its not necessarily even expiration date, but maybe I have fresh, veggies or meat that I need to use, then I'm going to prioritize that and say, okay, I need to make a meal out of this. What do I have to go around it?
Nice. See, and then you can get fresh ingredients and
Mhm.
you know that everything will be good for about a week. I've kind of found that 3 to 4 meals, like if I plan 3 to 4 dinners max for the
Mhm.
for the 7 days coming up,
Yes.
it gives us enough flexibility. And I used to like this week coming, I've actually blocked in what we're going to eat on each day. I'm super curious to see if we actually do that. I know tomorrow we have to do chicken bacon ranch casserole. We have to because that's the day that I have where I can do the potatoes and do all the ingredients fresh because I know
Yeah,
we're home. But I am also a moody eater. I think that food is so emotional
it
and
is.
it's such a tactile and sensory experience for people. And really like the culture of eating has been so ingrained in us that it's like community and that's when we're connecting. And the average family seems to have less than an hour together in their day when they're not doing homework or running around or working or busy or school. So that dinner table is so
It's important.
important
It
for,
is.
for
Yes.
everyone together. And y'all that are on live here tonight, definitely use the chat to ask any questions. I forgot to mention that in the beginning. If you have questions for Micah as we go, there should be a little chat button at the bottom of your Zoom. You can just tap that. It's a little dot, dot, dot. And you can type in any questions and we'll answer them here live. You can also raise your hand if you want to come on Zoom with us, if you're feeling brave, and ask Micah a question in person. Okay, I'm curious, what are the biggest issues that your clients have with regards to like just doing the things? Because we're in this age of overwhelm. We know
Mhm.
it's the same with like healthy habits, right? We know that if we want to be healthy, eating good, healthy food, drinking water, moving our bodies, these are things that are foundational. What are some of the blocks that people come to you with that you help them with to kind of move forward with this?
Sure. So a lot of the blocks is just coming up with a menu, or they're so sick and tired of their current rotation because it's the same thing time and time again. And so they're looking for something new, they're looking for something fresh. And being able to work with me, they are like, okay, these are the things we like, these are the things we don't like. This is what we eat all the time. We want something different. We want something new. So being able to discuss with my clients, like, hey, okay, these are your favorite things. How about we put a spin on it? We remove this item, we put this on here, and it's going to be something that you like, but it's going to have a different, flavor profile. And so it just helps freshen up and takes the pressure off of them of again finding a new meal to put into the rotation. A lot of my clients hate Pinterest. They love that the fact that it's there, but they don't have the time or the desire to sit there and go through Pinterest all the time. I could sit on Pinterest all day long and just save pins. Literally, I love it. Um,
Yeah.
so that gives me ideas to be able to extend to my clients. And I even have clients that will come to me with a recipe they found, but they're like, we don't like this ingredient in it, or we need to change this. So again, when they're not sure what to do, they can hand me that recipe that they want to try, but we can accommodate it to their needs and their taste and their likes. And then again, the biggest thing is the time challenge. So many of my clients are just busy families. They have multiple kids, they're entrepreneurs as well. They're juggling 100 things, and they're just like, we don't know. We literally don't have the time to stop and cook and be at the dinner table. But as you said, it's such an important aspect of a family to be able to sit at that dinner table and take the stress away from everything and know that dinner's just ready. That all they have to do is put it in the oven or pull it out of the fridge, whether it's a salad, doesn't matter. The stress of it's gone, but the benefits of being at the table over a meal is there, and they didn't have to worry about it.
I had an issue with the chat, so I'm just letting them know. I thought I had it fixed earlier because I learned it last time. So the chat should be working now. Sorry about that.
Perfect.
That's awesome. So yes. So how can we save time in the kitchen while still making nutritious meals? So we've got our plan. We figured out our menu. We figured out our recipes. What are some time-saving tips in the kitchen that you could suggest for us?
So a few different things. One thing I do is when I find myself with an extra 15 or 20 minutes, that's enough time to go ahead and prep something for dinner that night, whether it's chopping the onions or chopping some veggies or whatnot. I've taken that 15 or 20 minutes that I have and just moved it out of the way. So when it's time for dinner, all I have to do is throw things in the oven or throw things in the skillet to warm them up, and it's removed some of that time. Finding the recipes that are 30-minute meals or less are obviously wonderful. I've shared some recipes with you so that you can share with your community. These are recipes that I actually use. They're in my rotation, not only for myself, but with my clients as well. Again, I think it comes down to personality. Where do you find you work well? If you're the type that's like, hey, I can give half my Sunday to meal prep, meal planning, and that's where I'm comfortable and I don't have to worry about it for the week. That's awesome. I'm not that person. Sundays are my kind of sacred day where I just want to relax. I don't want to do anything. I definitely don't want to be cooking, meal prepping, any of that stuff.
Especially when you're cooking all week too.
Yes, yes. So
Yeah.
so it is a little different, but being able to just take those few minutes and, chop those veggies, get them prepared. Um, my mom bought me for Christmas a few years back one of these veggie choppers that you just smack it and it smacks your onions or whatever. That takes so much time away, honestly. So there's no shame in your game if you're using things to prep your onions or carrots or celery or whatever that you have, that makes it, again, just easier. With all my years of experience in cooking and everything, I still cry like a baby when I cut onions. So those choppers make that a lot better as well, where I don't have to sit and boohoo and bawl the whole time chopping onions. But it
I'm
really
adding them to
does.
cart right now.
But it really does help with the prep. It makes it a lot faster. Um, like I said, anything that you can do in those 15-minute gaps, 10-minute gaps, even if that's, hey, load the dishwasher, unload the dishwasher, so you're ready for dinner that night. There's all sorts of little things that just get you prepared. That's one of the things that bothers me the most. If it's like, okay, I'm ready to cook, and I walk into a dirty kitchen, and I'm like, I have to clean before I even start cooking, and then I have to clean again. That'll put me through a drive-through or ordering a pizza real fast.
100%.
So,
Yes, I've been there
mhm,
multiple times.
same.
That's awesome. Okay, so I love that. So I kind of wish I'd heard all this 10 years ago. I learned through like a phone call session with a friend of mine. We were being each other's therapists of that day. And I was just stressing out over food. And I was just like, I'm so over it and I'm tired and I'm rushing and I'm not enjoying the cooking process. Like I feel like preparing a meal for my family should be an honor. Right? Don't should on ourselves. I want that experience to be like delightful, that this is an act of love and care. But by the end of the day, I am tired.
Mhm.
I've been there for everybody all day. Part of that was learning that I had to be there for myself and, put my own oxygen mask on first early in the morning so that I could do the things for other people. But what was insightful, and then you've just echoed this here. She's like, don't cook at 6 o'clock at night.
Mhm.
Like it sounds like if you cook after 4 o'clock, things are not happy for you. And I was like, No. So I tried this experiment yesterday leading up to our talk today, and I cooked dinner at 3:30 and I
Yeah.
had it coming out of the oven at 4. I had peak energy. I was excited to do it, and I felt like a badass. I was like texting my husband a picture. I'm like, dinner's on demand tonight. Boom. And
Yeah.
everyone, because right now we're in a system with being at home all the time. I work from home, the boys are homeschooled. We're not always hungry at the same time. So I was like, it's on demand tonight. You guys can pick and choose, and then we'll all kind of hang out after we all eat. Uh,
Yeah.
so I love that tip that you shared with us. That's like if you have time in your day, go chop the veggies or go clean the kitchen or unload or delegate those tasks. If you
Yeah.
have someone there that can be like, hey, tonight you're in charge of chopping veggies or cleaning the kitchen before or after. Okay, I've got other questions.
Yes.
I'm taking notes too. This is
Okay.
so great. And then Jessica says, great suggestion. Good suggestion. Okay, that was from earlier. Well, you already answered this one. What are some quick and easy meal prep hacks that busy moms should know? So that's definitely covered. What do you think about batch cooking? How can batch cooking help moms? And do you have any like recipe suggestions that are beneficial to use with batch cooking?
So with batch cooking, most anything can be made in a larger quantity to where you can, set it up. Again, I'm all about variety. So I'm not the type of person that we see so many of these videos about meal prepping and it's literally the same meal 7 days in a row. And I'm like, I would lose my mind. I just wouldn't eat.
Hmm.
It'd go in the trash at some point. And of course I don't want to throw food away. So, but batch cooking is really good. Freezer meals are great. Being able to put your meals, prep them to where you can put them in a baggie or something and then it be a freezer crock pot meal and all you have to do that morning is take it out and dump it in your crock pot with a little bit of extra ingredients, then you're set for the day and you don't have to think about it. It's just ready that night. That's a good way to batch cook. I don't know how to cook small amounts, so I basically feel like I'm always batch cooking. But it is easy to make, like I said, the larger batches and then break them down and, again, it's not that hard to say you have a bunch of hamburger meat and you're like, okay, I'm going to batch cook and it's all going to be hamburger meals, but with just a couple of swaps and a couple different ingredients, you can make 3 or 4 different types of meals in this about an hour time and you don't feel overwhelmed. And the next thing you know, you're like, okay, cool. Now I have dinner for the next 4 nights. It didn't take me all that extra time and it's variety. It may be beef, but it's all going to be different flavor profiles. So that's really helpful. And again, I have a client that we go in typically about once a month. We cook for at least 2 weeks of the month, if not longer, and we put up all the food in the freezer. And then every morning they decide if they're going to be eating dinner at home or if they have plans and they'll be eating out. They just take out what they want from the freezer and let it thaw, and then they know they can just pop it in the oven at that time. There's a very, very busy family, and it works well for them. Um, so it takes me and one assistant about 4 hours to cook about 15 to 20 meals for that particular family.
Yeah,
Um, so it just, again, where's your time at? Where's your energy gap? How do you want to do it? Are you okay with beef multiple times in a week? At least maybe different flavor profiles, or are you somebody that wants, different proteins each week? Are you wanting something that doesn't even have protein in it one week? Or you want a vegetarian meal? There's so many different ways to go with it that can still make it simple, but you have variety.
that's awesome. So you mentioned saving on waste. So let me find my question disappeared. Yeah, that was going to be one thing I was going to ask you when you were talking about that client, how long it takes you to cook 2 weeks worth of meals. So I'm curious about that. Like if I set one day a month aside,
Mm-hmm.
batch cooked, 20 meals or something like that. We talked about variety. What are
Mm-hmm.
some common meal prep mistakes and how can they be avoided?
Hmm. Um, One, taking on too much at a time. thinking, because again, I have a lot of experience and I have an assistant. So yes, we can get 15, 20 meals knocked out, but it's set aside, mentally I'm prepared. I've got everything laid out. There's just not a whole lot of issues that can come up in that situation. But when it's just me at home and maybe I didn't prepare myself as well. So always make sure you have your ingredients. I am the queen of missing an ingredient or two and then being like, gosh, dang it. I either can't make my meal or I have to stop and run to the store. Or I definitely have used the, 60 minutes or less Walmart delivery option a few times at this point. So always double check your ingredients, your list, make sure you have everything. And then give yourself some grace. You don't have to, if you don't want to do 20 meals at a time, obviously, because that's overwhelming for one person. Start with 5 or 6 meals and see how long it takes you, because everybody's going to be different. Your prep skills, your knife skills, your capacity, all of it's going to be different for each individual. So, like I said, meet yourself where you're at. And if that's even making just 1 or 2 meals at a time and then building up and then getting that experience and understanding, okay, this is what I liked about it. This is what I didn't like about it. Maybe I can change something. Maybe I can, again, like you said, it should be enjoyable. We shouldn't be in the kitchen stressed out. We shouldn't be in the kitchen regretting that we have to be making dinner right now. We shouldn't be in the kitchen just frustrated, and by the time food's ready, you don't even want to eat it because you're just over it.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be our experience. We should be enjoying the time, and bring your family into the kitchen if you can, if they want to. Bring your kids in. I struggle with that at times because I can be a little OCD in the kitchen, and I'm like, why are you in here? And I'm like, wait, no, you need to learn too. So come on in here. So yeah, I mean, just make it fun for one, where you can make it fun, make it relaxing. Drink a glass of wine while you're making dinner if you want to, if that's your thing. If it's not, drink a glass of apple juice. I mean, do something that just you enjoy while you're doing it. Play music. I mean, make it an enjoyable experience for yourself.
Well, my grocery delivery just arrived. That's why my dog started barking. So I'm kind of proud of that. At least I got the groceries
Yeah,
in and we have a
yeah.
plan. My mom used to play classical music when she would cook,
Mm-hmm.
and she felt like that was like putting, a nice frequency into the food.
Absolutely.
Something that I'm curious about, like earlier when we were talking, I was doing my grocery order online and I was hungry. And
Mm-hmm.
that was a challenge. I was like, okay, I need to stop. I need to eat my lunch. I go have my protein shake. How um how moms, let's face it, our kids are not going to go hungry. We will feed our kids before we feed ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that probably started at birth for them. We will do whatever we need to do to make sure our kids' needs are met.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're wired for. Sadly, we don't have that same, in general, most of us don't have that same drive to do that for ourselves. And where I'm going with this is I feel like on those days that I do have to get in the kitchen and start cooking at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
if I plan my day a little bit better and I've got enough hydration, I've got enough protein, I've got enough healthy snacks where I can like nibble and snack while I'm cooking, and I can put stuff in the oven, and then I'm filling myself up. You see where I'm going with this?
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to know your suggestions for like what are some nutritious kind of grab and go snack items that could really help moms, because ultimately this group is about supporting the mamas so that we can be whole and complete humans again,
Absolutely.
or
Mm-hmm.
maybe for the first time,
Right.
in order to be able to care for others. And dog's going crazy. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm in a practitioner training, and this is aligned with what we're talking about, and it just hits so hard. He said that if there's something wrong with the practitioner, physically, mentally, emotionally, if we can't be there for the client and be present and be aligned for the client during their session, the client doesn't get the benefit
Mm-hmm.
of what we're doing. And that hit me so hard on a professional level, but also in my motherhood journey. I was like, if something's wrong with mama, the ripple effect is
Mhm.
huge. And then even to the stress level. And we know that if we're stressed, we're not getting the nutrition. Our bodies can't absorb the way that they're supposed to. So any tips on like nutritious, simple, grab and go items that could help support moms that we can just like make super quick and just have in the fridge so that whether it's first thing in the morning on the way out the door or like when we get home and we're about to prep food,
Mhm.
love to know your ideas on that.
So I am obsessed with grapes. I love grapes. I can literally go through 3 to 4 pounds of grapes in a couple days as snacks. Every time I open my fridge, I'm grabbing a handful of grapes. And grapes are so good for you. They actually are great for so many different areas, but they help with even your blood sugar. And so many people have this idea of like, oh, you can't eat fruit because it's sugar. Well, it's natural sugar. And the more studies that they're doing, they're finding that the natural sugars aren't spiking the blood sugar like everybody thinks it's going to do. Um, so I'm a huge component of fruit in general. It doesn't have to just be berries. Again, it's not an issue of that sugar. I feel great because it helps me stay hydrated. It helps me stay satisfied. Just again, and I think it's a good option too that when you're opening up your fridge, instead of grabbing, the junk food, the cookies, the whatever that's like, oh, this is quick and easy. It's a Pop-Tart. You're grabbing a handful of fruit. So it's a lot better. Same for veggies. I love just simple things like being able to pack yourself a handful of veggies in some hummus. Putting a hard-boiled egg is a great source of protein. It's filling, it's quick, it's easy. I'm all about, again, variety. So if I can pack myself a little container of some meats, cheese, a hard-boiled egg, some veggies, a handful of nuts, that's a really satisfying, complete meal because you got your fiber, you have your carbs, you have your protein. Um, and you can feel good about it, again, being that you didn't grab one of these health bars that's just packed full of junk, even though it says it's, healthy for you. Um, Really, again, it comes down to, I had a friend who was a carnivore, and she always had chicken breasts on hand. So she'd show up with a chicken breast in her hand, just chowing down on a chicken breast when, it was an easy grab and go item. And it's like, okay, that's fine. So again, there's no one size fits all for anybody in any area of life. I really don't believe that, especially when it comes to food, being healthy. I don't even like the word diet. We should be looking at what lifestyle are we trying to go towards. I'm down 105 pounds after years of fighting with the yo-yo diets and all the things. And again, I didn't do what everybody else did. It was an individual plan for myself. So find what works for you, because if you keep trying to stick to something that you don't like, you don't enjoy, it's frustrating for you, you're literally setting yourself up for failure. And then you're going to find yourself in those yo-yo situations, that roller coaster of, one week I did great and then one week it was awful. And then you're like, well, I screwed up, so might as well not start it back up. I've done
Yeah.
that so many times. Obviously staying hydrated, making sure that you always have water on hand. That's so important. I've put myself in the hospital more than once for dehydration, so I finally learned to drink my water. Um, but yeah, just again, what works for you? And I hate the word cheat days because we're not cheating on ourselves. We're not cheating on our diet because again, it's a lifestyle. Allow yourself treat days, and that actually helps reset your metabolism as well. So if you're really if you stay with a good healthy diet, then once a week, preferably the same day around the same time, treat yourself. Let yourself have ice cream. Let yourself have whatever meal that you're wanting. That helps to reset your metabolism and keep yourself um, actually staying healthier, losing the weight, helping the calories, all the things. It's just you got to shock your system sometimes.
But can I just pause and say like how incredible that is that you have lost 105 pounds on this journey? That is huge.
It is. It's finally. It's like I said, it's years in the making that I finally figured out. And I finally did it for myself. That's a big thing too, is do it for you. I was always trying to lose weight for somebody else, trying to make somebody else happy, trying to impress somebody else, and obviously that doesn't work. Don't attach your identity to anybody else. You need to do what you do for yourself. And it's been a long journey for sure, but it's absolutely worth it.
That's a huge soundbite right there. Don't do it for anybody else. Don't attach your self-worth and your identity to anyone else. That's awesome. Melissa says, music and a good tea. Yes.
Absolutely.
I know someone who makes good teas too, Melissa. She's doing awesome with that. Okay, so this is a great question that we had come in. So, and I feel this one deeply too, because when you have kids at different ages, it can be challenging to like make something that everybody likes so that you're not in that situation of having to make 3 or 4 different meals in a day.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you recommend meal prepping when cooking for a baby, toddler, and older kids all at once?
So I think that's actually fairly easy because you can do things like homemade pizza. It's easy to make homemade pizza at home. Kids like it of all ages. You can make pizza out of biscuits if you want to, and or you can make it using English muffins. There's so many different options, a bagel. And so to please the toddlers, they're usually pretty simple with just cheese on a little bit of pizza sauce and cheese on a biscuit, and then boom, they have pizza. Um, again, most toddlers, we all know they're chicken nuggets and mac and cheese. So I think it's important to always expose new foods to kiddos because our taste buds do change so frequently. And it's good to encourage the littles to, again, like I said, try things, but make it a game if you have to. And I know in my experience, I only have the one kiddo, so I can't say, I haven't had an older and a toddler at the same time. But I've worked with kids for a long time and still work with kids from toddlers all the way up to teenagers right now, just with the Tulsa Youth Works. So I do see this on a regular basis as well of just one kid going, ew, gross, and the other kids are like, oh no, I want to try it. So much of the time the littles they just want to be with the bigs, and they want to, they want the bigs to think they're special, important, cool, and of course they are. So with Miles, anybody that he thought was cool, whatever they ate, 100% that's what he wanted to eat. So if that's the case for a lot of them, is let the bigger kiddos try something, even if they don't love it, be like, please just eat it, let the toddler see it, and it might get the toddler to eat something that they normally wouldn't try. Now I will say food aversion is real. If that's something that you're dealing with, then that's a whole another ball game. But you just have to, again, experiment, explore, and see, because even the kiddos that have the worst aversions, at some point in time, they might try that food again and like it. So it's consistently introducing new foods and even the same foods, but maybe in a different way of cooking it. I know from my own personal experience, I hated Brussels sprouts for the longest time, but I had only ever tried them cooked one way. And then when I tried them different cooking methods, it's like, oh my gosh, this has become my favorite vegetable.
Like
And
with bacon and bacon fat and
yes, exactly. And
grilled or
yes, roasting them and shaving them into a salad, or even shaving them and frying them in a skillet. There's so many different ways. So I think that's one thing that's really important, is try different methods of cooking. And again, different flavor profiles. And then, you know, choose your battle. Some days it's just like, you know what? It's not worth the energy to put into this essential fight to get a kid to try a bite of something. And just, but find those days that make it fun, change the color of something, change, eat your rainbow, like they say, eat all the different colors of your fruits and your veggies. And again, make it fun, make a game out of it. Make it a learning lesson, because that's one thing in the kitchen. You should, it's about math, it's science, there's every component just about you can bring into it, including definitely sensory. So if there's sensory issues, again, find what works. Do dry rice, do wet rice. Let your kid explore both and what the sensory it feels like. And there's so many options.
awesome. So one of the comments in the chat, she says, yes, kiddo with autism mostly just wants sugar or repetitive food. Have you had experiences with that?
I do. So I actually had a client, an adult client, who, when she first came on with me, she was embarrassed to let me know that she was on the spectrum and had food aversions. It would have been so helpful to know that that was the case. And it took her close to a month before she finally told me, and maybe a little bit longer. But once we found out, her big food aversion was grains. She didn't like grains and things. Like, she loved soup, but if it had a grain in there, then that was one of her food aversions. And she would typically eat the same food for probably anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks at a time. And just, that's all she would eat. And then she would change. And then it was that next month, it was, she only wanted this for that month. And that's okay. She was okay with some variety. If my parents had a family friend growing up that literally all 3 meals a day, he ate chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes, and corn. And his wife cooked him that meal 3 times a day, and he never literally ate anything else. I think that's a little extreme. I was very little at that time, so I have no idea if he had any issues, if he was on the spectrum, if there was food aversions, have no idea. But yes, I mean, accommodate to what you or your child needs. But again, find out what is it that, if they're focused on one particular type of food, what's similar to that you can add into it, and try to explore, try to see, okay, they really love mac and cheese. Is this a texture thing? Is it a flavor profile? Okay, what can we do to add something into it, even if it's adding it into the mac and cheese itself to get them more nutrients. Give them, because you can, I'm telling you, there's so many ways to hide nutrients and veggies and whatnot into your cheese sauces, your meatloaves, I mean, pastas, all sorts of things.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. So another question we get often is like budget friendly meal prep. So rising cost of groceries. What are some cost-effective ways to meal prep on a budget? And can you suggest some affordable pantry staples that every mom should have?
Sure. So, everybody's a little different on their feelings in regards to comes to like canned foods. I know a lot of people are trying to stay away from canned food. If you can your own veggies, then that's awesome. If you're okay with buying canned vegetables or frozen vegetables, that's a great staple to have because you can make casseroles out of it. It can be a side for something. I would say always find, anytime you can find the deals on your proteins. I know Reese's will put things on really deep sales at times. A lot of people talk about Aldi. I'm not a huge fan of Aldi personally. But I buy in bulk almost always, no matter what I'm buying, whether it's for the family or my business. So I buy almost all my stuff from Sam's, and when they have deals, that's great. But on average, they have the best prices for myself of what I'm looking for. But again, I'm buying minimum 5 pounds of protein at a time, and usually a lot more than that. Winco. I know a lot of people swear by Winco, and they do a lot of really, really good deals. So again, find the places that you are having those deals. Look at your ads. One thing I noticed in a lot of our mom groups, they'll post for you and be like, "Hey, I was at Winco today, and they have chicken breast on sale for $1.99 a pound." Make yourself get to Winco that day. Do what you got to do. But as far as staples, I always have flour. I always have some sort of pasta on hand. I usually have cans of corn, black beans. It's so easy to make a Mexican type dish, whether it's taco soup, whether it's a casserole, whether it's just something as simple as beef enchiladas. That's literally 3 to 4 ingredients. If you keep those kind of things on hand, it makes it really inexpensive. Um, let's see here. I almost always have ground beef and chicken of some sort on hand because it makes it easy and simple to throw something together. Uh, we always have a lot of cheese. Cheese isn't always the cheapest thing, but we usually have cheese. Again, I have a 14-year-old that's going through his phase of pickiness, so it's kind of frustrating to buy the things. I mean, this week he decided he liked applesauce again since first time in 12 years. So I'm like, okay,
Huh.
cool. I guess we're buying applesauce again, which of course will last for a week or something. But again, I think it's important, what is your family like? Because just because it's a staple for me may not be a staple for you because your family won't even eat it. I almost always have some sort of fresh veggies on hand, whether it's potatoes or I use a lot of potatoes, whether it's sweet potatoes, red potatoes, doesn't matter. I almost always have potatoes on hand. And we like salads, so we usually have salad makings on hand. And that can be pretty inexpensive to just get. It's cheaper to get what you need to make yourself a big salad for 2 or 3 meals that week than going out and buying a salad for one time.
Absolutely, for sure. And you're getting a lot less ingredients then too.
Yes,
You can
yes,
skip all that soybean oil and all those
yes.
things. Awesome. Okay. If y'all who are live, because the replay of this will be up inside the Mama Circle. If y'all who are live have any questions, we're going to do a couple more questions here before we close. This is incredible. I have a list of questions that I was going to ask you, and in 2 or 3 sentences, it was like boom, 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 covering so much. So this has been really great. As we look at closing tonight, if you could give just like one piece of advice to moms who feel maybe intimidated, maybe overwhelmed by meal prep, maybe even burned out. Like maybe when we started this journey, it was fun and exciting. I know I got burned out by a picky eater, and I got to the point where my brain was telling me, doesn't matter, they're not going to eat it anyway, they're not going to like it anyway. Um, and then I had to reframe that. I was like, no, this is just one person, and I can take the spaghetti bolognese and take each individual ingredient and put it in different bowls, and he gets that first.
Mhm.
We mix everything up. But if you could give one piece of advice to moms who maybe feel intimidated, overwhelmed, or burned out by the constant meal prepping, cooking treadmill that we all seem to be on, what would that be?
Number one, give yourself grace. Allow yourself to we have emotions for reasons. Allow yourself to feel those emotions, but don't hold on to them. Experience them, feel them, acknowledge them. Be real that, hey, I'm feeling burned out. I'm feeling angry. Maybe I'm even feeling sad. There's times I'm like, man, I don't want to get into the kitchen. Like, I feel like I'm going to cry over the spaghetti tonight. Like, I don't want to do it. Acknowledge that, but release those emotions. Don't hold on to them because that's where they fester and that's where the bitterness and resentment and regret will come in. And with the kiddos or even the picky husbands or, spouses, whatever, that you get really frustrated with. And just like you said, well, they're not going to eat this. They're not. I do that with my son way more than I should. And he's even told me at times like, hey, mom, like you're the one that says people can change, but you're not allowing me to. So allow people to show up differently. Like we ask them to show up differently and then we don't give them the space to do so. So I think always being mindful of, okay, I've asked you to do this, but ultimately I'm expecting you not to change. That's not, I've had to work on that. So give yourself grace, allow others the space to show up differently. And again, find a way to have fun in the kitchen, have fun with it, get your kids in there, do whatever you got to do. Um, just to make it a more enjoyable experience. I can't hear you. I think you got muted.
Got it. I'm just copying your Facebook profile over to drop in the chat, so anybody that isn't already connected with you can. And let's see, Melissa says, so much good information and validation. I need the reminder to have fun cooking again and 100% with the grace. Yes, that was a mini therapy session for me. Thank you. Because yes, crying over spaghetti is legit a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's grab your Instagram too. And we'll put that in the chat. Okay, so all these links will be in the Mama Circle in the replay. And so you can grab them now, or when the replay goes up tomorrow, you can grab them there. And you've also generously shared with our community 3 recipes that we're gonna put into the replay area. They'll go out in the email to our mamas that are in our community too. The taco soup, was that because you brought me over a meal when I broke my arm last year? Was that the taco soup?
I think I brought you enchiladas.
Oh, was it?
I think it was enchiladas.
Okay. I feel like I've seen this before, so I expect you to you remember the meal a year ago better than I do. So we've got Micah's recipe for taco soup, no bake protein bites, which I'm super excited to try, and tomato basil chicken thighs. And these are all like prep time, 10 minutes, prep time, 10 minutes, prep time, 15 minutes. This is so exciting, and they're simple ingredients. Most of these ingredients, I would say most of us have on hand anyway, like chicken, tomato sauce, different spices, some veggies, garlic. Yeah, I love it. So we can just buy some protein that's on sale, throw together some pantry staples, and not have to burn out so many brain cells trying to figure it out every night ourselves. So those will be in the community under the replay of this as well. I'm really excited to try those recipes. If you try these recipes, drop a note in the comments in our community and let us know how you love them. And
And I'm
go ahead.
sorry. Have fun with them again and accommodate them to what you need. Like the chicken, the tomato basil chicken. If you can't do dairy, use coconut milk. I've done it before. It doesn't change the flavor. Or use coconut cream in place of heavy cream. It doesn't change the flavor of it. You would think, oh no, it's gonna be too sweet. It's gonna have that coconut flavor. It doesn't. So accommodate it to what you need. Have fun with your recipes. If you want more garlic in there, put more garlic in there. If you want less, put less. They're totally. That's the fun part of cooking is you can make it what you want it to be. I take recipes and I look at it as suggestions. I'm like, okay, they suggest this is how I should make this recipe. Well, okay, cool. We might try it that way, or we might try it with, adding extra stuff to it or taking something away that I know I don't particularly care for as a spice or a flavor. Like the protein balls. I think those things, they're amazing. That recipe, definitely try it as is with that recipe. But those are where it's fun because you can change the ingredients. You can make it brighter. You can make it fresher. You can make it with dried fruit instead of chocolate chips. I mean, there's no limit to what you can create.
And that's super helpful advice too, because I still have to like de-school myself from checking the boxes and being a rule follower and like follow the instructions exactly how it says. And I'm proud of myself. I want to share. And mamas, if you're in live here or on the replay, drop in the chat or in the comments one thing that you're proud of yourself for recently. And mine is that I'm actually tasting my food while I'm cooking it.
That's important.
I haven't done it in years. And I was like, oh, this is making the process enjoyable. So
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, even while I'm a snacker while I cook. So I graze while I cook, but that's enjoyable for me. And that's where you can build on that flavor too. Cause again, you can always add something, but you can't take it away. So start small. And if you're like, oh, I really like that flavor, you can add a little more versus I'm going to dump all this in here and see what happens. You might not like it as much. But definitely taste your food as you go because that's part of the experience. That's part of that wakes up your senses and obviously lets you know what you like and what you don't like. Get your kids in there and let them taste it and be like, what do you think? Should we add something? And get them involved. The more kids are involved with cooking, the more they're going to want to try something.
yep, for sure. I had my oldest in the kitchen making brownies for us earlier today. So just go do it. And he did a great job. Of course, it was
And
brownies, right? So that was the incentive to get him back into the kitchen. So
that's
Jessica says, I'm making my kids experiment with making their own snacks. That's fantastic. And it gives them ownership then too.
it empowers them, and like I said, it gives them ownership, it empowers them, it makes them it's engaging, and again, you're helping them with their sensory because I mean that's taste, that's sight, that's smell. And it's fun, it's exciting, and and I always tell kiddos, you don't have to like it, and adults included, you don't have to like it. The only thing I ask is that you try it, and when you try it, let me know what you think, but be kind in the way you describe it because I encourage our kiddos that I work with on a daily basis. We don't say ew, we don't say gross, we don't, you may not like it, but the person next to you, it might be their favorite food and you could have just hurt their feelings, or you could have just determined they just decided because you don't like it, they're never going to eat it again. So always be kind in the way that you describe the food, even if it's something you don't like, to say no, thank you. It's not my favorite. Okay, thank you for trying.
Those sound like great rules for life in a lot of different categories. So
Absolutely.
I love it so much. Well, thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight and inside the community. And I'm so excited to share some sound bites and the replay when we get that up tomorrow. So definitely feel free to invite your mama friends who need to hear this conversation to the Empowered Mama community.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Love it. Okay, Micah, thanks so much. Talk to you later.
Bye bye.
Thanks everyone for being on.